Hi everyone, welcome to your QuoteMachine onboarding. Today, we're going to look at a few different things. I'll start with really the technical account setup, connecting your account to Lightspeed, and all of the important setup details there. After, we'll look at editing your templates and setting up your account branding. And then last, I'll really run through your classic workflow while pointing out as many details as possible. So to get started, we're actually going to connect a Lightspeed account to QuoteMachine. So there are two options here. If you do not have a QuoteMachine account, you can actually select you don't have an account, and here you'll be able to click sign up with Lightspeed and sign in using your Lightspeed credentials, which you already have. Let's say you already have a QuoteMachine account created, which is often the case. We're going to sign in and connect Lightspeed this way. So here, if we head to My Account on the left-hand menu and select the Integrations tab, you should see a Lightspeed Retail option. So we're just going to click Add Integration, and here we're going to sign into our existing Lightspeed Retail account. So click Connect with Lightspeed. You'll sign into your account. You should already have all of this login information from Lightspeed. Here, we'll say Authorize Application. And now we're brought to this setup page in QuoteMachine. Here, these are all of the different integration options. So these are pretty important. I'll run through the list, just letting you know what each one does. First, you can double check that this is your Lightspeed account ID, just to make sure we're connected to the right account. Now, the first one here, auto export one quote. You'll notice when I show you the workflow later on that as soon as you mark a quote as one, it's going to automatically export into Lightspeed. If you don't want that to happen, you could turn off this setting. Contact sync, pretty important. You're going to want to have that activated. Any contact you create in QuoteMachine or in Lightspeed will sync vice versa. Auto export line notes to PO. So when you're using the order feature in QuoteMachine, any line notes you leave will automatically get added to the PO you create in Lightspeed. Probably a useful feature to have turned on. Apply price rules. Any price rules you set up in Lightspeed will automatically sync over into QuoteMachine if this is turned on. Usually we want that turned on as well. Inventory sync, pretty self-explanatory. The inventory is going to be updated in Lightspeed as you use it on the QuoteMachine side. Auto import sales paid with the credit account. This is a feature you definitely want to have turned on. Basically, anything you do on the Lightspeed side that's on account, so any charge you put on a customer's account in Lightspeed is going to import into QuoteMachine as an unpaid invoice. Our next option, create credit memos when payments are imported instead of applying them automatically, is really a personal choice. Essentially, what it means is anytime you take a payment directly in Lightspeed, how do you want that to import into QuoteMachine? Do you want it to automatically apply onto the customer's oldest unpaid invoice? If yes, we're going to turn that off like this. If you want it to import as a credit memo, which you can later decide where to apply, then we're going to want to turn this on. Export products. So if you were to create a product in QuoteMachine, would you like that to get created in Lightspeed? SKUs are not unique. Usually I'll have this turned off. If you know that you really use the same SKU for multiple products, then you'll want to turn this on. Product sync, again, turned on. Create and track PO from orders. What this is going to do is basically just give you the option to link your POs in Lightspeed, your purchase orders, to that line item on the QuoteMachine order, which is something we're going to see when I get into the typical workflow. Auto export of sent invoice, again, likely you want that turned on. As soon as your invoice is sent or marked as done, it's going to export into Lightspeed and create a sale there. Auto import short description really doesn't make a huge impact. I usually turn that on in that it's going to import more information from Lightspeed. Now, continuing to scroll down here, there's some more technical account setup. So this is essentially showing us the link between QuoteMachine and Lightspeed. So when I select the drop-down menu here, this is showing me my different locations in Lightspeed. So what do you want to link with? This is really the main account. Later, I'll show you how to manage multiple locations. So here, I'll select my shop in Lightspeed. I'll select which register in Lightspeed I want my QuoteMachine information to flow into, who is the main employee. In this case, I've selected myself, and then the payment type mapping. So what this is, essentially, any time you pay off an invoice in QuoteMachine with cash or check or credit card, how do you want that to show up on the Lightspeed side? So cash probably is going to be cash, same thing for check. Credit card, for example, I've created a custom one in Lightspeed that's called QuoteMachine. So in Lightspeed, I'll see that these particular payments are coming from QuoteMachine. Okay, perfect. So important to click Save at the bottom here. And we can see our Lightspeed account is connected. If you ever need to make changes, you would just come back into My Account, select Integrations, click on Lightspeed Retail. You can go in and change whatever needs to be changed. So we're still in the My Account section, and there are a few other important things. So we were just looking at the payment types. You'll notice the Payment Types tab up here. This is where you can essentially create custom payment types to pay off, to use when paying off an invoice or a deposit, for example. So add payment type, and just like we saw with the other ones, you're really going to link them to their corresponding payment type in Lightspeed. Payment terms, another important setting. If you're sending out invoices with terms, this is where you can set those up, payment terms. So you would click Add a Payment Term, label it whatever you need to, enter in the details. You may even set one of these as default. If, for example, all of your invoices are going out and they're due at the last day of the month. For example, I'd set that as default. So taxes is another important detail. Let's click here. So we see our taxes here. I happen to have many. You'll likely have one or two different tax rates. But if we click on one of them, we're going to want to make sure that, once again, this is linked to its corresponding tax rate in Lightspeed. So you can see here, external tax rate for Lightspeed. I've selected that same amount here. And this should be the case for all of the taxes you see listed here. And you can set one of these as the default. Perfect. A few more setup options here. So fees, this is where you can set up different types of fees you might need to add on to your quotes or invoices. Things like a service fee, for example, will automatically add on a 5% charge to the total of your invoice, for example. You can create new ones by clicking Create Fee right here. Now, locations is a pretty important one to set up. So if you have, for example, 4 different locations, you're going to want to see those 4 locations listed here in the QuoteMachine menu. When you are creating a new location, you click Add Location, and then we'll be brought to this menu here where you name your location, you enter in all of the address and phone number information about that location, And then, like we keep seeing, we're going to link it to its external location in Lightspeed. So external link here, you want to make sure you've selected the correct one in Lightspeed. This means all of the information will be flowing into the correct place in Lightspeed. Same thing with the register. That's the most important location setup detail, but still here you can see there are some other options. So you might have different invoice or quote templates for different locations. You're able to set a default here for each one. For example, default tax rate, again, might be a different tax rate for different locations. That's all things you can set up right here in your locations settings. Important, again, we will click save. That's all going to be saved here. Now, I'm going to jump over to the users tab. This is where you can create all of your different employee accesses into QuoteMachine. So you can see I've already got a few set up here. Very, very simple. You would select add a user, enter in their information, their email address, and give them a password. An important note here is that you're really going to want to give them the exact same email address here in QuoteMachine that you did in Lightspeed. This ensures that the two users will sync up between QuoteMachine and Lightspeed. So coming back to my users, you can see it's differentiating between the different roles. So I've got administrator and salesperson down here, for example. By setting a user at a different role, you're able to control what permissions that user has. To set up those permissions, we click on the roles tab. So you can see here I've got admin and salesperson. If I just click on either one of those, I can control what, for example, the salesperson role can't and cannot do in QuoteMachine. So that's completely up to you and your business, who has access to what. You can toggle these right here. As always, we click save. Perfect. Now, coming back to the settings, this information is usually automatically inputted when you connect to Lightspeed, but you can come to your settings here, make sure we've got your correct company information and address. And then here in account in the account settings section, let's click edit account. You'll have a few more general setup options. For example, your default currency, any additional currencies you might deal in, same thing with languages. An interesting note here is you can control your initial invoice number as well as the prefix. So we always say invoice, INV dash the number. You can change that prefix to whatever you or your customers are used to dealing with. Okay. This is also the place where you can set things like the default quote deposit, as well as set when a quote is going to expire. So let's say you want your quotes to expire after 15 days. You can set that here and save this. Perfect. So that's really the basics of your account setup. There's a lot of little details, but if you spend a few minutes getting it all set up correctly the first time, it's going to avoid any problems. Feel free to ask us any questions about this, as well as any other problems you might face when using QuoteMachine, using the chat button in the corner here. The next thing we're going to focus on is setting up your document templates, as well as personalizing your account branding. For this, we're going to head to the Sales Tools section in the left-hand menu right here. Sales Tools. Here, we're really able to customize all of our different documents. So you can see listed here, quote, invoice, order. This is where we can just click on one of these, like a quote, for example, and either create multiple templates or edit an existing one. So let's click here on my default one, for example, edit content. And we're going to be able to see how the template is set up and make any changes we think necessary. So for example, if I were to click on these three little dots on the corner, I can say edit and maybe replace the photo or edit the text here. As always, we click save. By toggling and getting this little blue add button, we can also add in more sections. So if I say add, it's going to give me the option of what I want to add in. Let's say we want to put in more text. We would click text or text and an image. Here we can upload a photo, enter our text, and click save. By scrolling down a bit more, we can edit our pricing table. Let's say edit again here on the pricing table, and we have some options here. So you might want to show the group description. We'll see what exactly that is later. Show inclusive subtotal for each group. We probably want that. And then, things like show SKU. Maybe we want to do that, etc. I've got a lot of options here. Scroll through this, select which ones you want to show or not. Now the same setup applies for all of your templates, whether it's a quote, an invoice, or an order. Really just depends how you want these documents to look. If we head back to our Sales Tools tab and we scroll down, you'll see here email templates. So this is where you can set up kind of the default message when sending out documents from QuoteMachine. So let's look at send invoice template, for example. This is just my pre-recorded message that's going to automatically be attached when I send out an invoice. So you can customize this, put in your company information. For example, maybe I want to make a change here. Great. And click save. The last thing in the branding section, when we scroll down here, we can control our colors, our font, all of that. We just say edit options. And you're able to control, for example, the color of your buttons in QuoteMachine, the background colors, all of that here. Okay. We'll say save once again. And like I said, you can change all of these things at any point. It's not going to be a permanent thing once you do it. So you can always come to your Sales Tools section and make any changes you think necessary. Next, we're going to get into the workflow. So you're going to start actually using QuoteMachine. Now, when you're doing that, you're going to be using your left-hand menu bar very often. So most importantly, you'll see the little Lightspeed button here. So we can click on the button. It'll bring us into our Lightspeed account. There you go. Here in Lightspeed, you'll have the same option on the left-hand menu bar, the QuoteMachine tab. So if you don't see this on your computer, you'll need to install the browser extension. The browser extension is what gives you this button, really. It's really going to ease the transition between the two. So to install the browser extension, it's going to work on Google Chrome or Firefox. Just reach out to us and we can send you the link to get that set up. I'll click on QuoteMachine again. We're going to be back here. Now in QuoteMachine, let's navigate through all of our different options. We'll start off with the dashboard. This is going to give you a summary of all your different tabs, quotes, do invoices, etc. But you're mainly going to be working in the individual tabs, such as quotes. Here in the quotes tab, you're going to see all of the quotes you sent out recently. the status of that quote. Here, for example, in gray, I'm seeing the amount of deposit that I've taken on that particular quote. Now in quotes, of course, you can sort through these using the big buttons at the top to show maybe only the won quotes or show only the accepted quotes. So you can just click on those buttons and then unclick to remove the filter. I'll start now by creating a new quote. Let's say new quote right here. Here you've got the option of creating a new customer on the spot if they don't already exist, or choosing an existing customer. If you select new customer, that customer will also get created in Lightspeed once this quote exports. Let's say existing customer for the moment, and select someone we've already got. So now we're building our quote. Very simple. We're going to scroll down, select add a product here. When I click add a product, this is going to show me everything I've got in my inventory. I'll use a particular filter now to sort through and only show me some products, but you'll notice I see an image of the item and I'll see the amount of it I have in stock. So let's select a few items to add to our quote here. Add. We can add all of the items at once by clicking add items 1 to 4. So here, I've added on items that I already have in my catalog. Let's say I want to add on an item that does not already exist in my catalog. I could have said add a product once again, selected quick create, and entered in all of the product information right here. It'll get added onto my quote. When using this quick create, you'll notice at the bottom here, you've got save to catalog as an option. So if you uncheck it, this will not get saved in your inventory. If you keep it checked, that'll create a new item in your inventory. Now that we've got some items on our quote, we have a few options. I could say, for example, create a group to create different groups here. So let's say something simple like group A. I could also add in a description of the group right here. I can go ahead and drag my items into that corresponding group. I can go ahead and create a second group as well. Let's say group B, save, and once again, I'll drag the corresponding items into the groups. Now that I've got my items here, a few other details to point out are things like discounts, which you can apply onto each line item as a percentage or a dollar amount. You could also apply a discount onto the total cost at the bottom if you want. Coming back to the line items here, you could change the price of each line item if needed, and it won't change the price in your inventory. It's just going to change it on this one quote. The same thing is going to apply for the product titles and descriptions. So before we send out this quote, we're going to take a look at edit design. This just lets us double check how the quote is going to look when we send it out to our customer, as well as make any little changes or tweaks on this particular quote. So I'll scroll down here. If I remove my photo here, you'll see you're able to select a different template if you have many. And then again, just like I saw in the templates earlier, you can get this little add button to add in extra information, or click on an existing box, say edit, if you want to make some changes on this particular one. Once again, it's not going to change in your template, it's just going to change on this one quote. So we'll say save as always. When you're ready to send out this quote, you can send it right here, or we can say mark as done, which will finalize the quote without sending it out right away. Let's say send. You can see that pre-recorded message we looked at earlier during the account branding section. Send now. The quote has been sent directly to our customer. Now, if I click on open quote, this is exactly how my customer is going to see the quote. So we can scroll down here. We see those different groups I made. Any customizations I put in the product title. In my example, I was asking for a deposit. So deposit happens to be 20%. You would, of course, set that at whatever amount you wish to ask for. So when the customer scrolls down, I'll act as if I was the customer. They're going to say, yes, I accept. You can have them do an e-signature right up here. And you could even have them enter in their payment information to pay the, in this case, 20% deposit I was asking for right on the spot. So now internally, once again, if I come back to my quote, let me refresh the page. I'm going to get an email notification saying that this customer has accepted the quote and paid a deposit. So you'll be able to keep track of what's going on. And when we scroll down here, we're going to see that's e-signature we took. And we'll see, once again, if I refresh the page, we're going to see that I've taken a deposit, which will export into Lightspeed. So we can see that deposit, like I keep saying. Now, with this quote, you have a few options again. If you need to make a new version, if there's been some changes between you and the customer, that's where you'd click new version. When you're ready to go to your next step, the quote is final. That's when you click 1 in the bottom right corner here. So once we've clicked that, let's scroll down here. We're going to see that the quote has been exported into Lightspeed Retail. Now, to go to our next step, in this example, we're going to go to an order. Creating the order is going to let us reserve the items in Lightspeed, as well as create any necessary purchase orders. You could, of course, go directly to an invoice if you wanted to. Let's say create order. Here, if you've gone multiple locations, you can just double check where you want to create the order. Perfect. So on the order here, let's scroll down. What happens is any items I've got in stock get reserved. That's what's happening in green here. Any items I do not have in stock are going to be in gray. Here, if an item is being reserved, like this one, but you still wish to order it for the customer, you can unreserve it by clicking on the box and selecting Release All Items. Now, on an order, we're going to click Mark as Done. And here is where we're able to create our purchase orders. So to create the purchase order in Lightspeed, you have two options. You can do it directly from here by clicking on Create Purchase Order and selecting which items you want to add to that particular PO. So let's select these two and say Create Purchase Order. It's going to bring us into Lightspeed Retail, where you fill out that PO like normal. Perfect. So you see here, Lightspeed PO. There you go. So that's the first way to do it. The next way to do it is to build your purchase order directly in Lightspeed from scratch. So let's do that real quick. We'll say inventory, new order. Let's just start this PO. Perfect. And when you're building your PO in Lightspeed, you'll notice we've added in this QuoteMachine tab. So when I click here, this is going to show me all of the items that are on orders in QuoteMachine that need to be added to a PO. So I can sort through these orders however I need and add the items onto this particular PO by clicking the blue plus sign. So now if I go back into QuoteMachine, I'll see that those POs have been linked directly to my order. Let's scroll down, there you go. So I can see I put 2 items on one PO, that was PO 202, And then I create another PO, which I can see here, PO 203. So once you've done this, the Lightspeed PO will be sent and received normally. Once it is received in stock and added to your inventory, this here is going to be updated to show that it's been added to your inventory and reserved for this customer. Now, the order process can be very long. So here you've got some options. You could leave notes on individual line items if needed, like so. You could also leave notes globally on the order, for example. Now remember, this order can be sent out. It could be used as an external document, so you can email it to your customer right here. And there are also customizable statuses on the order. So you see in the bottom, I've got in progress. Let's say I change my status to completed. This is an easy way to track your orders and know which ones are at which stage. What I mean by that is if I click on my orders tab, I'll be able to see all of my orders and their status. Here, for example, is that order I just created. You can see I've changed the status to complete. Now, these statuses are customizable. That is something, again, you would set up in my account. Let's continue. We'll click on the order number. And then our next step, when we're ready, is to create an invoice from this order. So if we scroll down, we'll see these items. When these POs are eventually received in stock and added to your inventory on the Lightspeed side, this will automatically update to reflect that. You'll notice you have the Create Invoice button. So at any point, you can select Create Invoice. Here, you're able to set a payment term for this invoice if needed, and you're able to select whether you're going to invoice everything or maybe just a partial invoice, like so. So we click Create Invoice. Now we're in an invoice. This works pretty much like it did with the quote and the order. You're able to add on extra items here, change the prices as needed. Once you select Send or Mark as Done, this invoice is going to be finalized and will be exported to Lightspeed. At that point, you won't be able to go back and make any changes. Let's say Mark as Done. What I get here is a warning that my customer is over their credit limit that I've set for them in Lightspeed. So that's just a nice control check. I can ignore it in this case. And then when I click Mark as Done, what pops up here is just a reminder that I took a deposit on that initial quote. It's asking me if I want to apply it onto this invoice. You most likely do, so you're going to say Apply Payment. We can see that that's reflected on the balance owing here. Now, you have some options. Once again, if you click Open Invoice right at the bottom here, we're going to be able to see exactly how the customer sees the invoice that we sent. In this case, we've applied a payment onto the invoice, so we see that reflected right here, as well as at the bottom. And if you were to send this invoice to your customer, they would be able to either click Pay Now and pay directly on the invoice. Or internally here, if we come back to your internal view of the invoice, you would be able to say Receive Payment and note how they did pay. Whether it's check, cash, credit on their account would show up here as well. For using a card on file, you'll see that it's going to show their card on file right here. You're able to enter in the amount you want to charge. So you could apply as many payments onto one invoice as needed. Let's enter in an amount here. Say we want to charge it on this customer's card. You select Apply Payment and you're done. That total has been added here. It's also going to be reflected on the customer's view of this invoice. Now, As for resending an invoice, when you're looking at the page right here, you can scroll down, select write an email, and go ahead and resend that to your customer as many times as needed. And we can see when you do that, it's going to show up right here as proof that you've sent it. This is going to work the same way on quotes and orders as well. You're able to send out that document as many times as needed. When we scroll down on our internal view of this invoice, we're going to get a good history of what's happened. So we'll see the different payments I've taken. We'll see that they've all exported into Lightspeed. And we'll also see lower down here that this invoice I created will create a completed sale in Lightspeed. It's going to create a completed sale at the moment you clicked mark as done or send. So it's really important that you create the invoice at the moment you wish to record that particular sale. Now, once you've got a bunch of these invoices, you can start to manage your accounts receivables in QuoteMachine. So if I click on my invoices tab on the left here, this is going to show me all of the invoices I've sent out recently. I can see the status of the invoice, the balance remaining on the far right here. And up top, I've got a ton of different filters. So these big boxes are my basic filters. I can see overdue, fully paid, etc. And I could also use the filters button here to sort through all of this using any one of these filters I see here. Up top, you've also got an aging report, which of course is going to be helpful in managing your accounts receivable. Now, in terms of receiving payments from customers and applying them onto invoices, you have a few options. So if I look at a specific customer, let's come to our contacts and look at this customer right here. I can see their amount due right up top. And when I continue to scroll down and I select the invoices tab, we're going to get an overview of all of their recent invoices, the status, and the amount of the invoice. So you've got a few options. If they were to send you a check for one particular invoice, you could select that particular invoice, like this one right here. Select receive payment, and once again, note how they paid you. If they were to, for example, send you a blanket payment to cover many invoices, we could also come to our invoices tab here. Simply select receive payment at the bottom and apply payments onto multiple invoices. You'd be able to enter in the amount you wish to apply to each particular invoice. For example, once again, payment type, apply payment, and it's going to be applied automatically. Now, when we're looking at customers, we'll stay right here. You have a few options. You could send them out account statements, and these account statements are going to include links to all of their unpaid invoices. You see right up top here, I can actually set it up where the account statements are going to automatically be sent. Now, you can also send out a one-off account statement. To do that, we will just scroll down here, select Account Statements tab, and we can scroll down to the bottom and say Create Account Statement. You can select the statement date. We'll say Create Statement. And again, this is something you can customize in your document templates section of the Sales Tools tab. When this looks good, you can send it off, print it out right here, or we can just click close if we don't want to do anything at the moment. Now, if I were to open up that statement I just created, we'll see that, like I said, it's going to include links to all of their unpaid invoices. It's also set up in this case to show them any credits they have on their account, as well as a small aging report. So let's come back to our internal view of QuoteMachine. If we were to click once again on our contacts tab here, you're going to be able to see all of the contacts, sort them by customer type. And what's important to note here is that any changes you might make on the customer in QuoteMachine or in Lightspeed will be equally reflected in the two. Other features that I won't focus on in too much detail today are the subscriptions tab. Here you can set up a subscription. So if you want to set a recurring charge for a customer to be charged X amount on the same day every month, for example, you would select new subscription to set that up. You've also got the calendars scheduling tab here, where you can connect QuoteMachine to your own calendar and use that to link invoices or quotes to time slots on your very own calendar. Feel free at any point when you guys are using QuoteMachine to use the pink chat button on the corner here to reach out for more help. That's going to be our introduction to QuoteMachine. Like I said, please reach out to us if any other questions come up. Thank you.